returning to Shakespeare's King Lear, and I believe we left off last time with in Act 1, Scene 4, with Lear having divided up his kingdom in three and banishing his beloved daughter Cordelia, who has been received by the King of France as the picture of virtue that she is, and he himself reveals himself similarly. I said that although Shakespeare is very much of a modern author in the sense that he seems to take a great deal of interest in psychology and motivation for actions in a way that becomes an obsession in modern literature and modern life, so that the discipline of psychology itself arises and is to some degree seen as the most important discipline. A psychologist or a doctor of psychology can give witness in a court of law and can overturn in his assessment of the state of mind of the person concerned whatever the person might have done. You say declare the person to be insane, and by virtue of that, the actions that they've committed, they're held to be they're not guilty by reason of insanity. Psychologists have a great deal of power in life, in large part because we believe that human nature is most strongly associated with that aspect of our nature which we call the psyche. And Shakespeare does explore that. Certainly, that is something that is interesting here. He explores motivations, but he does so not in isolation. I do want to say that. The modern or romantic view of psychology is very much self-centered, in accordance with this idea of the person as an orphan, which you've heard me talk about, and concomitant with that idea of ourselves as the center of our own universes is the idea of self-identification, self-expression, to the point now where we talk about gender identity. I identify myself rather than in accordance with the gender assigned to me at birth by some other party. That's the declaration of autonomy, radically conceived in our understanding of ourselves. Nobody else can judge our nature but ourselves. We declare our own nature, we express it. That's an autonomous form of it, and an autonomous psychological form of it. Shakespeare does not engage in that. He is interested in psychology, but it's psychology in relationship. And the relationship not only is between, in the case of King Lear, between daughters and father, but also, as we've seen in the whole Elizabethan world picture, reflects the relations between God and his creation, and the king and his kingdom. There's all sorts of relationality that is brought to bear. So when we talk about psychology and Shakespeare's portrait of psychology and his interest in it, although it does mark him as an ally, as it were, of the Romantics, his understanding of psychology is always a relational one and a personal one. And it varies depending on who the person is. So a daughter's psychology is different than a father's psychology, and is different than a son's psychology. These are relational terms in accordance with Christian theology's understanding of human nature as having personhood, distinctions between persons. They're not the same. Every person is not the same. In fact, we have, by virtue of the fact that God has created us, we have an individual personal nature. That, in fact, will be the definition of human nature that Boethius comes up with. We're an individual substance of a rational nature. That's what a human person is. Autonomy is not the same thing as that. It's not individuality. It's a declaration of our own, we are a law unto ourselves. That's not what's being stated here by Shakespeare. I just wanted to make that comment. We left it off in Act 1, Scene 4 with the division of the kingdom, yes, and now the consequences of it are immediately being playing themselves out, because the daughters, Goneril and Regan, have observed for us that they don't, they're as perplexed by their father's actions as everyone else, and to some degree horrified by them. And they know that if he is willing to do this to Cordelia, his beloved Cordelia, that is, banish her and effectively make her a non-person in his realm, and do likewise with Kent, his loyal servant, then it will be no less possible for them to incur their father's wrath. And so they need to manage the old man before he hurts somebody, and that includes them, because he still has a retinue of 100 knights. So they decide that they're going to join forces for the purposes of reducing Lear. So this is the interesting thing. He removes virtue from his kingdom. He removes sanity from his kingdom, and rationality. All of these things are to some degree banished right at the outset, Act 1, Scene 1, whether it's out of old age or whether it is because, as has been stated, he has ever but slenderly known himself. He's always been capable of rash and foolish acts. And the fool himself, when he emerges here in Act 1, Scene 4, starts to make that clear, that who's the real fool here? Is it me, who's here? That's my role, to be a fool, and yet I speak with wisdom. And yet you are the king, and yet you are truly a fool. And so he's holding the mirror up to the king, and to some degree, by doing so, restoring his sanity. Now, that's an interesting aspect of, and again, it's got something to do with how theater, by presenting things objectively, we can see ourselves in other characters, and we understand ourselves on the basis of those things. And the fool plays that sort of a role. And he's not a psychologist, but he is a counselor. He's a mentor of some sort to Lear, even though he's not an old man and isn't his superior, he's his inferior. And yet he reflects human nature and reflects upon human nature. So in Act 1, Scene 4, as I say, the fool has just entered, and the fool, who's a very witty character, I think we left off here, says that I marvel what kin thou and thy daughters are. They'll have me whipped for speaking true. Thou have me whipped for lying, and sometimes I'm whipped for holding my peace. I'd rather be any kind of thing than a fool, and yet I would not be thee, uncle. Thou hast pared thy wit on both sides and left nothing in the middle. Remember, he talked about an egg and you cut it in half. So, but there's nothing left here of you. You've hollowed yourself out entirely by your own actions. So better to be a fool than to be a king that has hollowed out himself to the point of nothing being left. He's destroyed his own family. He's made everything a function of, and remember, all of this happened because he's so disordered in his understanding of love that he put love to the trial, demanded that his daughters profess how much they love him in a display, which was just a pantomime. It was a love signaling, not really declarations of love, and Cordelia wouldn't go along with it because it would be abusing the very thing that she actually does feel for her father, and vice versa. He loves her too, and she won't go through this. And he, being probably humiliated by his own folly in public, and the fact that his daughter won't go along with it, that he completely blows up. And the fool shows the problem with this. And here comes one of the pairings. So enter Goneril, line 195. How now, daughter, what makes that frontlet on? Methinks you are too much of late in the frown. And then the fool's comment is, thou wast a pretty fellow when thou hadst no need to care for her frowning. Now thou art an O without a figure. I am better than thou art now. I am a fool, thou art nothing. And then to Goneril, because she's looking at him and scowling at him, and he's afraid of her because he is talking a little bit too candidly here about the situation, and she doesn't want to provoke Lear. She wants to handle him, to manage him. She says, yes, forsooth, I will hold my tongue. So your face bids me, though you say nothing. Mum, mum, he that keeps nor crust nor crumb, weary of all shall want some. And then he points at Lear, there's a shelled peas cod. And then Goneril. Not only, sir, this your all licensed fool, but other of your insolent retinue do hourly carp and quarrel, breaking forth in rank and not to be endured riots. Sir, I had thought, by making this well known unto you, to have found a safe redress. But now grow fearful, by what yourself too late have spoke and done, that you protect this course and put it on by your allowance, which if you should, the fault would not scape censure, nor the redresses sleep, which in the tender of a wholesome weal might in their working do you that offense, which else were shame. That then necessity will call discreet proceeding. And so in other words, she's threatening him here. And the fool picks up on this. For you know, nuncle, the hedge sparrow fed the cuckoo so long that it had its head bit off by it young. So out went the candle, and we were left darkling. Now, this is referring to the practice of the cuckoo bird, which lays its egg in a sparrow's nest, and the little mother sparrow sits on the egg long enough, and then it hatches, and it's a large bird, and large enough that it will actually eat the eventually eat the mother bird, bite off its head, at least so the saying will go. And this then becomes an emblem of exactly what's going on here. He is laid up a type raised as a daughter, somebody who's about to decapitate him. There's the threat. And Lear, upset at the threat, are you our daughter? So note there will be a lot of discussions of relationship now. Lear has acted effectively as if he were a law unto himself, as if as king he could bestow and bid to the point where he could take apart his kingdom and he could reconstruct it in accordance with his arbitrary willfulness, not in accordance with reason, not in accordance with the bonds of love, not in accordance with tradition, not in accordance with the law, but just simply by edict. And he has succeeded in doing so. However, he's done so at the consequence of all relational fidelity, and he is going to lament the very thing that he himself caused, and he's going to blame others for it. That's what's happening here. Are you our daughter? I would you make good use of your wisdom, where I know you are fraught, and put away these dispositions which of late transport you from what you rightly are. And then the fool, may not an ass know where the cart draws the horse? Whoop, jug, I love thee. Does any here know me? This is not Lear. Does Lear walk thus, speak thus? Where are his eyes? Either his notion weakens, his discernings are lethargies. Ha! Waking? 'Tis not so. Who is it that can tell me who I am? And then the fool, Lear's shadow. I would learn that, for by the marks of sovereignty, knowledge, and reason, I should be false, persuaded I had daughters, which they will make an obedient father. So note the inversion here. He's made them into the parent, and he's made himself into their child. That's his own doing. And if they are doing what he dislikes now, and he feels like he has lost himself in the process and is going to blame them for what he's done, then the blame is actually misplaced. Nonetheless, he rues rightly the consequences of exactly that same action. And so then he says to his daughter, your name, fair gentlewoman? This admiration, sir, is much of the savor of your other new pranks. I do beseech you to understand my purposes aright. As you are old and reverend, should be wise, here do you keep 100 knights and squires, men so disordered, so debauched and bold, that this our court, infected with their manners, shows like a riotous inn. Epicurism and lust make it more like a tavern or a brothel than a graced palace. The shame itself doth speak for instant remedy. Be then desired by her, what else will take the thing she begs? A little to disquantify quantity or train. Now, did you sense the threat? Either you do it or I'm gonna do it. So you have the choice here to capitulate and do what I tell you, or I'm going to do it irrespective of your wishes. So make no mistake here. She's being very plain with him. You have no choice in the matter, and I'm giving you the choice so that you can choose to act along with my will rather than against it. And if you act against it, it's going to avail you nothing, because you have no power here. Be then desired by her, what else will take the thing she begs, a little to disquantity your train, and the remainders that shall still depend to be such men as may besort your age, which know themselves and you. Darkness and devils! Saddle my horses, call my train together. Degenerate bastard, I'll not trouble thee. Yet have I left a daughter. You strike my people, and your disordered rabble make servants of their betters. Now Albany comes in. Albany is Goneril's husband, and he's a little bit more polite than his wife. Albany, whoa, that too late repents. Oh, sir, are you come? Is it your will? Speak, sir. Prepare my horses. Ingratitude, thou marble-hearted fiend, more hideous when thou show'st thee in a child than the sea monster. Pray, sir, be patient. And then to Goneril, detested kite. Sorry. I mean, we've seen this already with Lear. When he loses his temper, he is abusive in his language, to put it mildly. Detested kite, thou liest. My train are men of choice and rarest parts, that all particulars of duty know, and in the most exact regard support the worships of their name. Oh, and now moment of regret. Oh, most small fault, how ugly didst thou in Cordelia show, which like an engine wrenched my frame of nature from the fixed place, drew from my heart all love, and added to the gall. O Lear, 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 beat at this gate that let thy folly in, striking his head, and thy dear judgment out. Go, go, my people. And Albany, my lord, I am guiltless, as I am ignorant of what hath moved you. It may be so, my lord. Here, nature, here, dear goddess, here, suspend thy purpose, if thou didst intend to make this creature fruitful. Referring to his daughter. Strike her with sterility. Cursing her. Into her womb convey sterility, dry up in her the organs of increase, and from her derogate body never spring a babe to honor her. If she must teem, create her child of spleen, that it may live and be a thwart disnatured torment to her. Let it stamp wrinkles in her brow of youth, with cadent tears fret channels in her cheeks, turn all her mother's pains and benefits to laughter and contempt, that she may feel how sharper than a serpent's tooth it is to have a thankless child. Away, away. Now, says Albany, now, gods that we adore, whereof comes this? And then Goneril, never afflict yourself to know more of it, but let his disposition have that scope as dotage gives it. Note the relation between husband and wife here is hardly what we would call healthy. So in the relations of characters, we're going to learn a lot in the interactions of speech between husbands and wives, daughters and fathers, and we're going to start to draw a picture, because truthfully, Lear's assessment of everyone around him is already not worthy of our trust. We know that he's not only a fool, but one that is prone to rage and prone to overreaction. So we don't even know up to this point where Goneril, how to regard her as a creature. We know that she is willing to make a false profession of her love, but we don't know how bad she is. And to some degree, that actually arises from the action anyway. The characters aren't static, they grow over the course of time. But in the interaction with her husband, we have some sense that not only does her father find her impossible, her husband's rather mystified by his wife's action towards her father. In fact, he's wholly ignorant of it, and she doesn't care whether he agrees or not. In other words, she actually rules the house. And so we have a weak figure in Albany, a very weak figure. Doesn't mean he's a bad figure necessarily, but he's a weak figure and he's unable to moderate his wife's actions at all, even though he is a duke. So, and then Lear comes back in because his train has been reduced. What? 50 of my followers at a clap? Within a fortnight? What's the matter, sir? I'll tell thee. To Goneril, life and death, I am ashamed that thou hast power to shake my manhood thus, that these hot tears which break from me perforce should make thee worth them. Blasts and fogs upon thee, the untented woundings of a father's curse pierce every sense about thee. Old fond eyes, beweep this cause again. I'll pluck ye out and cast you with the waters that you loose to temper clay. Yea, is come to this. Ha, let it be so. I have another daughter, who I am sure is kind and comfortable. When she shall hear this of thee, with her nails she'll flee thy wolfish visage. Thou shalt find that I'll resume the shape which thou dost think I have cast off forever. He imagines that he'll go to his other daughter and she'll restore him and he'll become this powerful king and father, and he'll rebuke her and put her in her place. So now he dreams for the power that he's already given away. And we already know he's not going to get back. And then Goneril, do you mark that? I cannot be so partial, Goneril, to the great love I bear you. And he's about to make a protest. And he basically says, okay, shut up. Because he wants her to moderate her course of action. Her action is to be really harsh towards her father. And it's intentional. We've seen that Goneril and Regan decided on a course of action to try and clip his wings, to reduce him by force, not to persuade him, but just be rough with him. You know, we can't tolerate this. We're going to put the old man in his place. So they don't love him at all. They come across as very nasty. Albany thinks that his father-in-law deserves better treatment and wants to direct his wife to that end. I cannot be so partial, Goneril, because I'm your husband, that I'm to the great love I bear you. And he's going to then say something to correct. And she says, pray you content. In other words, hold your tongue. What? Oswald, ho! And then to the fool, you, sir, more knave than fool after your master. Nuncle Lear, tarry, take the fool with thee. He's afraid, of course, because she is the power in the court, not the king. And then a fox, when one has caught her, and such a daughter should sure to the slaughter, if my cap would buy a halter, so the fool follows after. This man, said Goneril, hath had good counsel 100 nights 'Tis politic and safe to let him keep at point 100 knights. Yes, that on every dream, each buzz, each fancy, each complaint, dislike, he may enguard his dotage with their powers, and hold our lives in mercy. Oswald, I say. So now this makes her a little bit more reasonable. We have a mad king. He's lost his wits. He's prone to rage. He has 100 knights. He can tell the knights at any point to enforce his will in the situation. So he is actually like a madman with a big gun. They need to disarm him. That is their problem here. It's not an illegitimate problem. It's very real. Albany simply says, well, you may fear too far. Safer than trust too far. Let me still take away the harms I fear, not fear still to be taken. I know his heart. What he hath uttered I have writ my sister. If she sustain him and his 100 knights, when I have showed the unfitness, and now she's imagining her sister betraying her, because they've agreed that they're going to do this, and she's done her part by being cruel to her father. Now she's worried that her sister will receive him well, and they will ally against her. So there's no trust in her at all. She's a very manipulating, selfish young woman. Oswald comes in, the steward. What, have you writ that letter to my sister? Aye, madam. Take you some company, and away to horse. Inform her full of my particular fear, and thereto add such reasons of your own as may compact it more. Get you gone, and hasten your return. Oswald goes. No, no, my lord, this milky gentleness and course of yours, though I condemn not, yet under pardon, you are much more attaxed for want of wisdom than praised for harmful mildness. Albany, how far your eyes may pierce, I cannot tell. Striving to better, oft we mar what's well. Nay then, well, to the event. So there's a disagreement between husband and wife on what the right course of action was. He understands the problem as she's articulated it. He thinks she's gone way too far, been cruel, has been too strict, and has probably made bad matters worse. Okay, so scene 5. Now we have Lear, who's left his daughter Goneril's residence. We have Kent disguised as the character Keys, and we have the Fool, the three figures which we'll see accompany each other at various times going forward here. And Lear, for his part, is also sending letters. The letter dispatching is a significant part of the play, and the reading of letters and the revealing of what the intents are. So letter writing needs to be understood here as well. And so Lear says, go you before to Gloucester with these letters, acquaint my daughter no further with anything you know than comes from her demand out of the letter. If your diligence be not speedy, I shall be there afore you. I will not sleep, my lord, till I have delivered your letter. And then out he goes. And so we're left with just two, the Fool and Lear. And I will skip over the banter between the two and go to Act 2, Scene 1. Because otherwise I will never get through this play. Act 2, Scene 1. Back to Edmund. The subplot. Gloucester and Edmund and Edgar are, as I say, sort of foils for Lear and his three daughters. There's similar sorts of problems between the two households. There's a problem of households. There's a problem of legitimacy, right? The themes of legitimacy and the issue of nature is already prominent in both plot and subplot. And Edmund, the bastard, and Curran come in severally, it says, that is independently, and then they meet. Save thee, Curran. And you, sir, I have been with your father and given him notice that the Duke of Cornwall and Regan, his Duchess, will be here with him this night. How comes that? Nay, I know not. You've heard of the news abroad, I mean the whispered ones, for they are yet but ear-bussing arguments. Not I. Pray you, what are they? Have you heard of no likely wars toward betwixt the Dukes of Cornwall and Albany? Not a word. You may do then in time. Fare you well, sir. So if it was unclear already, now he's foreshadowing that there are things happening off stage that we've not yet heard about, namely the two dukes who had the kingdom divided between them are not going to be satisfied with just having half the kingdom. There's going to be one of them is going to be supreme. And this I would say almost always happens in the division of a kingdom. The king might divide it. That doesn't mean the division is going to hold for very long, because it was already illegitimate. And so there's going to be an attempt to unify and get rid of the rivals. So that this is another terrible consequence of Lear's initial actions. Okay, so now Edmund and Edgar will come onto the scene, and then Gloucester. And so we'll look at all of this subplot playing itself out here. The Duke be here tonight? The better, best. This weaves itself perforce into my business. My father hath set guard to take my brother, and I have one thing of a queasy question which I must act. Briefness and fortune, work. Brother, a word, descend. Brother, I say, enter Edgar. And then to my father watches. Remember, he's already told him he has to act in a certain way to try and get him out of this problem. And Edgar trusts his brother Edmund. Rather credulous. Oh, sir, fly this place. Intelligence is given where you are hid. You have now the good advantage of the night. Have you not spoken against the Duke of Cornwall? He's coming hither now in the night, in the haste, and Regan with him. Have you nothing said upon his party against the Duke of Albany? Advise yourself. I'm sure on it. Not a word. I hear my father coming. Okay, so he's sowing dissension through rumor and slander and gossip between his brother. He's orchestrating the plot by giving fake news and fake directions, and he's doing it for the purposes of gaining greater and greater authority. First, he's going to gain the authority of his own household. The Duke of Gloucester he intends to usurp. By duplicity and by force, he's going to become the Duke of Gloucester. But he has higher aims than that. He himself wants to come in the place of the king, because he believes that he has the nature and the ambition to achieve that. So we see the rise of Edmund is not just a peeved brother who feels like he's been treated rather shabbily by the status quo. We see a truly evil character that intends on gaining political power at the highest level. And that's what he said, the better, the best. So his aim, his ambition is to rule in the kingdom altogether. So it's just the beginning of that, which we'll see full blown in a few acts. But he says to his brother, have you not spoken against the Duke of Albany? And of course, Edgar has no idea. Where did this idea come from? Well, at any rate, Edmund, I hear my father coming. Pardon me. In cunning, I must draw my sword upon you. Draw. Seem to defend yourself. Now, quit you well. Yield. Come before my father. Light. Ho, here. Fly, brother. Torches, torches. So, farewell. Okay, so it's a sham. He's in on an act. He's acting as if he's acting in his own best interest. We know he's not. Discrepant awareness. The audience knows that Edmund is a very evil character. Edgar has no idea. He's been duped in the whole process. And then he wounds his own arm with a sword, and he says, of my more fierce endeavor, I've seen drunkards do more than this in sport. And then cries out, Father, Father, stop, stop, no help. Enter Gloucester and servants with torches. Now, Edmund, where's the villain? Here stood he in the dark, his sharp sword out, mumblings of wicked charms, conjuring the moon to stand an auspicious mistress. But where is it? So he appealed to his father's sort of belief in the stars and so forth, thought that this was the way to appeal to Gloucester, and Gloucester actually doesn't even give a rip about any of that. He says, yeah, okay, whatever. Where is the villain? Edmund. Fled this way, sir, when by no means he could. Pursue him. Ho, go after. By no means what? persuade me to the murder of your lordship, but that I told him the revenge of gods 'gainst parricides did all the thunder bend, spoke with how manifold and strong a bond the child was bound to the father. Sir, in fine, seeing how loathly opposite I stood to his unnatural purpose, in fell motion with his prepared sword, he charges home my unprovided body, latched mine arm, and when he saw my best alarum spirits, bold in the quarrel's fight, roused to the encounter, or whether gasted by the noise I made, full suddenly he fled. So now the lie is fully presented. Let him fly far. Not in this land shall he remain uncaught and found. Dispatch. The noble Duke, my master, my worthy arch and patron, comes tonight. By his authority I will proclaim it, that he which finds him shall deserve our thanks, bringing the murderous coward to the stake. He that conceals him, death. Edmund is obviously extremely pleased that his ruse has worked. When I dissuaded him from his intent and found him pight to do it, with cursed speech I threatened to discover him, he replied, thou unpossessing bastard, dost thou think if I would stand against thee, would the reposal of any trust, virtue, or worth in thee make thy words faith? Is anyone going to believe your words? Because you're a bastard and I'm the legitimate. Nobody. You say whatever you want. This is what in he said, she said situations, or there are two individuals. Who's going to believe your word? I'm the legitimate ones. You're a bastard. Nobody's going to believe a word you say. No, what I should deny, as this I would, though thou didst produce my very character, I'd turn it all to thy suggestion, plot and damned practice, and thou must make a dullard of the world if they thought the prophets of my death were very pregnant and potential spirits to make thee seek it. Oh, strange and fastened villain! Would he deny his letter, said he? I never got him. And then he pulls it out, and then here's the trumpets of the Duke of Cornwall. Hark! The Duke's trumpets! I know not why he comes. All ports I'll bar, the villain shall not escape. The Duke must grant me that. Besides, his picture I will send far and near, that all the kingdom may have due note of him and of my land. Loyal and natural boy, he says now to Edmund. Why is he natural? Why is he loyal? What makes him loyal? What makes him natural? Now his natural is in the fact that he loves his father ahead of his brother. He shows fidelity in his faithful conduct, even though he has actually just spoken duplicitously and lied and presented his brother fraudulently as a traitor. It's he that's the traitor. Nonetheless, the father thinks that he is faithful towards him, so he calls him natural. What he began as a bastard, because that's his state in the eyes of the law, but now he's saying that in terms of his affections, he is natural, and his brother is the bastard. So he's playing with this Shakespeare here. And then he says, I'll work the means to make thee capable. What does that mean? I'll make you the legitimate son. I'm going to disinherit Edgar, and I'll announce that you are my legitimate heir. That's what he means here. Of course, Edmund is thoroughly pleased by all these events. Now Cornwall, Regan in attendance. How now, my noble friend, since I came hither. And by the way, Cornwall is a very different character than Albany. Cornwall is a man of action, and he is not particularly soft. I came hither, which I can call but now, I have heard strange news. If it be true, all vengeance comes too short, which can pursue the offender. How dost, my lord? Oh, madam, my old heart is cracked. It's cracked. What did my father's godson seek your life? He whom my father named, your Edgar? Oh, lady, shame would have it hid. Was he not companion with the riotous knights that tended upon my father? I know not, madam. 'Tis too bad, too bad. And then Edmund's answer to her question, yes, madam, he was of that consort. He's lying. He has no idea, and it's unlikely that he was, but he's going to put him in the midst of them in order to, again, help his own case, and in particular with the lady. Now, the glances between Regan and Edmund, you might want to make something of this, because this is another aspect of the whole play, is that Edmund isn't only making the power play, he's also making eyes at the two daughters, and he's going to play them off against each other. They're going to prefer him to their husbands. So legitimacy is going out of the way, and it's all volition, and it's all passion, and it's all being led by the worst aspects of human nature. The whole scene that ensues. Remember, Cordelia and the King of France, the representations of virtue, are gone from the kingdom. In the absence of virtue, what we have is the passions overruling all decorum, all legitimacy, all natural bounds. And we said, where is the law of nature then? Does anyone recognizes any laws of nature? As we saw in the previous play, Macbeth, that there was some sense of laws that accompany nature, and when you violate them, even the horses will eat other horses, and the lower hawks will eat the greater birds, and so forth. So there's a disorder in nature. Same sort of sense here. People are going against the law that governs customs and governs nations and governs kings under God's rule and reign. And the consequence of that is that all disorder, all chaos breaks out. Okay. He was of that consort. Regan then. No marvel then, though he were ill affected. 'Tis they have put him on to the old man's death, to have the expense and waste of his revenues. I have this present evening from my sister been well informed of them, and with such cautions, that if they come to sojourn at my house, I'll not be there. Nor I, assure thee, Regan. Edmund, I hear that you have shown your father a childlike office. It was my duty, sir. He did it bewray his practice, and received this hurt, you see, striving to apprehend him. Is he pursued? Ay, my good lord, if he be taken, he shall never more be feared of doing harm. Make your own purpose, how in my strength you please. Now he's saying this to Gloucester. You have my permission to do whatever you want to take care of your errant son. He's effectively, the law is after him, and you can kill him if you wish. And for you, Edmund, whose virtue and obedience doth this instant so much commend itself, you shall be ours. Nurturers of such deep trust we shall much need. You we first seize on. I shall serve you, sir, truly, however else. So Cornwall now elevates Edmund to the point of having a standing in the kingdom. He says that he will be loyal and will reward the loyalty or the honor shown to him with obedience and service. We already know how Edmund uses those types of positions to his advantage, and we will expect that he will do the same here, and he will. If you follow what I'm saying here, you have to read into the characters at this point. Helps if you know what's going to come, which I do. But I shall serve you, sir, truly, however else. For him I thank your grace, said Gloucester. You know not why we came to visit you? Thus out of season, said Regan, threading dark-eyed night, occasions, noble Gloucester, of some poise, wherein we must have use of your advice. Or, our father he hath writ, so hath our sister, of differences, which I best thought it fit to answer from our home. The several messengers from hence attend dispatch. Our good old friend, lay comforts to your bosom, and bestow your needful counsel to our businesses, which craves the instant use. I serve you, madam. Your graces are right welcome. So we see a lot of plot and machinations and orchestrations, constellations moving together, Gloucester now being drawn to Albany's, or rather Cornwall's side in the power play. In scene 2, which I'm going to skip over here, we will have the good king, not the good king, the good servant Kent encounter Oswald, the nasty so-and-so, and try and punish him for his bad conduct towards the king before, for which he himself is thrown in stocks. I'll skip over that, Act 2, Scene 2. But there's a fight between the two of them, and Kent draws his sword, and Oswald cries out that he's being murdered. And at that point, Edmund, Cornwall, Regan, Gloucester, and servants enter the scene. Right in the middle of the conflict. And they find Lear's servant. They don't know it's Kent, right? How now, what's the matter? Part with you, goodman boy, if you please. Come, I'll flesh you. Come on, young master. Weapons? Arms? What's the matter here? Keep peace upon your lives. He dies that strikes again. What is the matter? The messengers from our sister and the king. What is the difference? Speak. I'm scarce in breath, sir. No marvel you have so bestirred your valor, you cowardly rascal. Nature disclaims in thee. A tailor made thee. And Cornwall sees nothing but an angry old man. He doesn't recognize that that the one's noble and the other's ignoble. He just sees one character who's crying out that he's being victimized, and the other's acting as if he were rightly provoked to anger. So Cornwall, thou art a strange fellow. A tailor make a man? A tailor, sir. A stone cutter or a painter could not have made him so ill, though they had been but 2 years of the trade. Speak yet. How grew your quarrel? This ancient ruffian, sir, whose life I have spared at suit of his grey beard. And Kent then explodes. Thou whoreson son, Zed, thou unnecessary letter. My lord, if you give me leave, I will tread this unbolted villain into mortar and daub the wall of a jakes with him. Spare my grey beard, you wagtail. Peace, sirrah. You beastly knave. Know you no reverence? Yes, sir, but anger hath a privilege. Why art thou angry? That such a slave as this would wear a sword, who wears no honesty. Such smiling rogues as these, like rats, oft bite the holy cords of twain, which are the intrinsic to unloose. Smooth every passion that in the natures of the lords rebel, being oil to fire, snow to the colder moods, renege, affirm, and turn their halcyon beaks with every gale and berry of their masters, knowing not like dogs but following. A plague upon your epileptic visage. Smile you my speeches as if I were a fool? Goose, and I had you upon Sarum plain, I'd drive ye cackling home to Camelot. What, art thou mad, old fellow? How fell you up? So he keeps on. Kent's problem here is that he's lost his temper. Now he's lost his temper because he's upset that his master has been so badly treated. He's also old himself. And he's lost a little bit of self-control, and he's lost his filter. That's the way we call it these days. He can't hold his tongue. He doesn't recognize. He's in the presence of aristocrats here, and he's acting like a commoner. He's letting his passions overrule him, and he's making a very bad impression of himself in front of Cornwall. And Cornwall's said, you know what, why don't you like him? Well, his countenance likes me not. It's just, I don't like the looks of him. That's not a great explanation. No more, perchance, does mine, nor his, nor hers. Sir, 'tis my occupation to be plain. I have seen better faces in my time than stands on any shoulder that I see before me at this instant. So he insults them. And Cornwall, this is some fellow who, having been praised for bluntness, doth affect a saucy roughness, and constrains the garb quite from his nature. He cannot flatter, he, an honest mind and plain, he must speak truth, and they will take it so. If not, he's plain. These kinds of knaves I know, which in this plainness harbor more craft and more corrupter ends than 20 silly duckling observants that stretch their duties nicely. Sir, in good faith, in sincere verity, under the allowance of your great aspect, whose influence like the wreath of radiant fire on flickering Phoebus' front, what means by this? So he realizes that he has been speaking too plainly and too roughly, and he is afraid of the consequences. So now he shifts and starts using poetic and flowery language, and Cornwall has no idea what he's talking about because Cornwall's a bit of a thickie, quite frankly. He's not like, what meanst thou this? I have no idea what you just said. To go out of my dialect, which you discommend so much, I know, sir, I am no flatterer. He that beguiled you in a plain accent was a plain knave, which for my part I will not be, though I should win your displeasure to entreat me to it. What was the offense you gave him? I never gave him any. It pleased the king his master very late to strike at me upon his misconstruction, which he, compact and flattering his displeasure, tripped me behind, being down, insulted, railed, and put upon him such a deal of man that worthied him, got praises of the king for him attempting, who was self-subdued, and in the fleshment of this dread exploit, drew on me here again. None of these rogues and cowards but Ajax is their fool. And then Cornwall has finally had enough, because Kent is too unguarded in his speech, and as I say, he has lost his filter, and so finally Cornwall says, fetch forth the stocks. You stubborn ancient knave, you reverent braggart, we'll teach you. Kent, sir, I am too old to learn. Call not your stocks for me, I serve the king, on whose employment I was sent to you. You shall do small respects, show no too bold malice against the grace and person of my master, stalking his messenger. Fetch forth the stocks. As I have life and honor, there shall he sit till noon. Till noon, till night, my lord, and all night too, says Regan. Why, madam, if I were your father's dog, you should not use me so. Sir, being his knave, I will. And then Cornwall, this is a fellow of the self-same color our sister speaks of. Come, bring away the stocks. So the stocks are brought out, and he is stalked. So it's not only him, it's the fact that he is the king's emissary. And again, the king will be insulted by this. Is that intentional? Yes, it is. He's also wanting to send a message to the king. But there's some legitimacy on the part of Cornwall on this, but again, it goes a little too far. Let's go to Edgar, who up to this point we have seen simply as a rather naive and quite frankly not particularly interesting character. We know nothing about Edgar thus far. He's been duped and played by everyone around him. And he could just be an uninteresting character, a brother who's been lost his legitimacy by the orchestration of his brother's actions. Is there more to him than that? Well, we find for the first time there is a bit more to him. So Act 2, Scene 3. Enter Edgar. Soliloquy. He's on his own here. I heard myself proclaimed, and by the happy hollow of a tree escaped the hunt. No port is free, no place that guard and most unusual vigilance does not attend my taking. Whiles I may escape, I will preserve myself, and am bethought to take the basest and most poorest shape that ever penury in contempt of man brought me near to beast. My face I'll grime with filth, blanket my loins, elf my hair in knots, and with presented nakedness outface the winds and persecutions of the sky. The country gives me proof and precedent of bedlam beggars who, with roaring voices, strike in their numbed and mortified arms pins, wooden pricks, nails, sprigs of rosemary, and with this horrible object, from low farms, poor pelting villages, sheepcotes, and mills, sometimes with lunatic bands, sometimes with prayers, enforce their charity. Poor Turley God, poor Tom, that's something yet. Edgar, I nothing am. So, Edgar does something we're going to see Hamlet will also do in the next play, in the final play we'll look at. He will feign madness. A lot of play on wisdom and folly and station, nature. He is going to go to the extremity here to hide himself. He will present himself as a madman. He'll take off his clothes. He'll daub his hair. He'll look like a man that is consigned to Bedlam. Bedlam, by the way, is the place where the mad are housed in London. Tom of Bedlam, and he will go around disguising himself in that form. They're looking for a man on the run. He's going to be right in their midst, but presenting himself as a man who's lost his reason. So in that sense, he is a foil for Lear. Very interestingly. And Lear, when he comes upon them in Act 3, Scene 1, which we'll see after the break, in Act 3, Scene 1, we will see that Lear will see Edgar as a figure of wisdom, because he himself has been reduced to the state of beggary in his own kingdom. So how far has he fallen? He's reduced himself to this. And so we will see that the foils keep changing here. So Edgar has lost his good standing. He is under pain. If he's arrested, he'll be killed. He can't flee the kingdom. He's going to hide in their midst by disguising himself in the form of a beggar. Now, you could say, if you wanted to read it in terms of biblical precedent, you could see him as a Christ figure, a figure of hidden virtue, disguised as a beggar, not seen as not recognized by his own. He doesn't come in his nobility. He doesn't come in his kingship. He comes as a man who they regard of low station, of no repute, etc. He's the suffering servant. So there's a little bit of that in this as well, I think. At any rate, that's Edgar's speech. Go back to Scene 4. We will find that Lear enters the scene with his fool and finds his servant Kent, who's disguised as Key, in stocks. And of course, he's not going to be very happy at this, as we might imagine. I think I will skip over this. But Lear, Kent, gentlemen, and Gloucester. Let's look at Lear and Gloucester here. And Lear. He's not received with the welcome that he had hoped for. Remember, he left his other daughter hoping to come to his second daughter and receive a good welcome. In fact, they refused to even see him. Deny to speak with me? They're sick? They're weary? They've traveled all the night? Mere fetches, the images of revolt and flying off. Fetch me a better answer. My dear lord, said Gloucester, you know the fiery quality of the Duke, how unremovable and fixed he is in his own course. Vengeance? Plague, death, confusion, fiery? What quality? Why, Gloucester, I speak with the Duke of Cornwall and his wife. Well, my good lord, I have informed them so. Inform them? Dost thou understand me, man? I, my good lord, the king would speak with Cornwall. The dear father would with his daughter speak. Commands, tends service. Are they informed of this? My breath and blood. Fiery? The fiery Duke? Tell the hot Duke that not No, but not yet. Maybe he's not well. Infirmity doth still neglect all office, whereto our health is bound. We are not ourselves when nature, being oppressed, commands the mind to suffer with the body. I'll forbear, and am fallen out with my more heavier will to take the indisposed and sickly fit for the sound man. And then looking at Kent, death on my state! Wherefore should he sit there? This act persuades me that this remotion of the Duke and her is practice only. Give me my servant forth. Go tell the Duke and his wife I'll speak with them now, presently. Bid them come forth and hear me, or at their chamber door I'll beat the drum till it cry sleep to death. I would have all well betwixt you, he says. So now Gloucester's been reduced to a go-between. He's a sort of porter for the Duke. And Lear's now seeing the full folly and the full tragedy of his original act here. Oh me, my heart, my rising heart, but down. Cry to it, nuncle, as the cockney did to the eels when she put them in the paste alive. She napped them to them on the coxcombs with a stick and cried, down, wantons, down. 'Twas her brother that, in pure kindness to his horse, buttered his hay. And now Cornwall, Regan, Gloucester, and the servants come back. And Lear is pretty polite at first. He's putting on a brave face and a, quite frankly, acting kingly for a second. Good morrow to you both. Hail to your grace. And then now they set Kent free from the stocks. I am glad to see your highness. Regan, I think you are. I know what reason I have to think so. If thou shouldst not be glad, I would divorce me from thy mother's tomb, sepulchring an adulteress. And then to Kent, oh, are you free? Some other time for that. And out he goes. Beloved Regan, thy sister's not. As in she's nothing now. I've disinherited her as well. O Regan, she hath tied sharp-toothed unkindness like a vulture here. I can scarce speak to thee. Thou not believe with how depraved equality. O Regan, I pray you, sir, take patience. I have hope you less know how to value her desert than she to scant her duty. Say, how is that? I cannot think my sister in the least would fail her obligation. If, sir, perchance she have restrained the riots of your followers, 'tis on such ground and to such wholesome end as clears her from all blame. My curses on her! Oh, sir, you are old. Nature in you stands on the very verge of his confine. You should be ruled and led by some discretion that discerns your state better than you yourself. Therefore, I pray you that to our sister you do make return. Say you've wronged her. Ask her forgiveness. Do you but mark how this becomes the house? Dear daughter, I confess that I am old. Age is unnecessary. On my knees I beg that you'll vouchsafe me raiment, bed, and food. And so he's mocking what she would have him do. I'm gonna go and beg and act on my knees like a beggar, go to my daughter? Good sir, no more. These are unsightly tricks. Return you to my sister. Gets up. Never, Regan. She hath abated me of half my train, looked black upon me, struck me with her tongue, most serpent-like, upon the very heart. All the stored vengeances of heaven fall on her ungrateful top. Strike her young bones, you taking airs with lameness. And then Cornwall, fie, sir, fie. You nimble lightnings, dart your blinding flames into her scornful eyes. Infect her beauty. You fen-sucked fogs drawn by the powerful sun to fall and blister. So he curses her. as he did before, now in their midst, and they see a man. What do I do with this father? In response to being provoked, he would have her be stricken with sterility. He curses her. He disinherits her. He's already disinherited himself anyway in the whole process, but now he's doing this. What do they do with him? They're angry. These are sharper than their sister in Albany. This is Cornwall and Regan. Regan, oh, the blessed gods, so will you wish on me when the rash mood is on. No, Regan, thou shalt never have my curse. Thy tender-hefted nature shall not give thee o'er to harshness. Her eyes are fierce, but thine do comfort and not burn. 'Tis not in thee to grudge my pleasures, to cut off my train, to bandy hasty words, to scant my sizes, and in conclusion to oppose the bolt against my coming in. Thou better knowest the offices of nature, bond of childhood, effects of courtesy, dues of gratitude. Thy half of the kingdom hast thou not forgot, wherein I thee endowed. Good sir, to the purpose. Who put my man in the stocks? And then Oswald come in, and he hears the trumpet. What trumpet's that? I know it, my sister's. This approves her letter, that she would be here soon. And then to Oswald, is your lady come? This is a slave whose easy borrowed pride dwells in the fickle grace of her he follows. Out, varlet, from my sight. What means your grace? And now Goneril. So now the two sisters come in, and they're going to gang up on him. And it gets really ugly. Who stalked my servant? Regan, I have good hope thou didst not know on it. Who comes here? Oh, heavens! If you do love old men, if your sweet sway allow obedience, if you yourselves are old, make it your cause. Send down and take my part. And then to Goneril. When she comes in, art not ashamed to look upon this beard? Oh, Regan, will you take her by the hand? Why not by the hand, sir? How have I offended? All's not offense that indiscretion finds, and dotage terms so. Oh, sides, you are too tough. Will you yet hold? How came my man in the stocks? I set him there, sir, but his own disorders deserve much less advancement. You? Did you? I pray you, father, being weak, seem so. If till the expiration of your month you will return, and sojourn with my sister, dismissing half your train, come then to me. I am now from home, and out of that provision which shall be needful for your entertainment. Return to her, and 50 men dismissed. No, rather I abjure all roofs, and choose to wage against the enmity of the air, and be a comrade with the wolf and owl, necessity's sharp pinch. Return with her. Why, the hot-blooded France that dowerless took our youngest born, I could as well be brought to knee his throne, and squire like pension beg to keep base life afoot. Return with her. Persuade me rather to be slave and sumpter to this detested groom. At your choice, sir. I pray thee, daughter, do not make me mad. I will not trouble thee, my child. Farewell. We'll no more meet, no more see one another, but yet thou art my flesh, my blood, my daughter, or rather a disease that's in my flesh, which I must needs call mine. Thou art a bile, a plague sore, or embossed carbuncle in my corrupted blood. I'll not chide thee. Let shame come when it will. I do not call it. Anyway, let me skip over this. We'll come to the conclusion of this, because he just keeps raging. He keeps losing his temper. He keeps disparaging his daughters. And Regan doubles down on her sister's actions. And in the end, Lear leaves in an absolute rage. And then when he's asked for a reason for why he needs his retinue, he said, oh, reason not the need. Our basest beggars are in the poorest things superfluous. Allow not nature More than nature needs, man's life is cheap as beasts. Thou art a lady, if only to go warm were gorgeous. Why, nature needs not what thou gorgeous wearest, which scarcely keeps thee warm. But for true need, you heavens give me that patience. Patience I need. You see me here, you gods, a poor old man, as full of grief as age, wretched in both. If it be you that stirs these daughters' hearts against their father, fool me not so much to bear it tamely. Touch me with noble anger, and let not women's weapons, water drops, stain my man's cheeks. No, you unnatural hags, I will have such revenges on you both, at all the world shall. I will do such things. Well, what they are yet I know not, but they shall be the terrors of the earth. You think I'll weep? No, I'll weep not. I have full cause of weeping. But this heart, and now you hear the sounds of the storm. So there's this the pathetic fallacy that the heavens, the natural world, starts to crash and show signs of breaking up, of violence, of discord. Lear literally discombobulates at this point. He's severed all ties with his daughter, and he is going to run, and he will run out into the wild and become a lot like Edgar, whom we'll see in a second. Let me stop it there, and we can